Hello, everybody. Hello, Till. It's a great pleasure to have you here today. Till was invited to Medics since he managed to wrap up a great article that we wrote in our op-ed series, and he managed to take the essence and give it to the broader public in a very nice and vibrant way. You can find the article on Medium in particular. The title is exactly Usual Medics Redefining Right and Wrong for the 21st Century, Revolutionizing Ethics for the Digital Age. Quite an ambitious subtitle, but I think you also kind of got the op-ed intentions. I also remind that the op-ed article that you can find on our website is called Ethics in the Swarm, Self-Coordinating Opinions and Emergence. So, Till, I talk
Really.
too much. So please give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, what you do, how you got in touch with those concepts, uh,
Sure.
so that we know you better.
Yeah. So, Tijl Dullers. Basically, yeah, what I'm doing or what I have been doing, I think I'm in the working world for about 20 years now, and I think most of the time I've always been busy with technology. Most of the time as an IT architect, that's the best way to name it, I guess. And yeah, to maybe then okay, an IT architect. A lot of people are IT architects. Not all of them are maybe interested in the concept of ethics and even swarm ethics. So how do you go from being an IT architect and being interested in your concept to bring it quite in an easy way, I think. I think the first years I was active, I was mostly interested in the technology part of things. But then you slowly see that the things you do with the technology and the way you design the technology and conceptualize it and set it up, that it has impacts beyond the technology. The typical the typical story, and even I think a law by Conway of the way you design an IT system has an impact, a repercussion on the organization that uses it. That's in a company setting, but you can put it more broadly also in a society. The way you design technology impacts society. I think we can all witness that pretty well now with the whole chat GPT craziness. So that's one thing. And secondly, I've been always also interested in you have technology, but technology, when you look at it in the context of a company, for instance, it fails incredibly often. Things break all the time. So I have been interested in how can we automate, but also how can we maybe build self-healing systems, etc. And then, of course, that connected to it's not a new trend. I'd say the trend of the latest few years, the automation that becomes not only automation, but creating autonomous systems. Mm-hmm. And that connected to the evolutions with the whole large language models, which is only the beginning. And the next iteration, you will have the autonomous agents that will do a lot of things. Yeah, that gives me a clear clue that it will be more and more important to have a good way to embed the moral molecules, I think you call them, of the swarm ethics, to embed that into autonomous systems. And that's basically, in short, why I got pretty interested in your op-ed regarding to the swarm ethics.
I see. That's very interesting. Actually, I saw that on Medium, your profile is also very rich in articles about AI and the impacts of AI into society. So it very well resonates with many of the articles that with Swarm Ethics and the House of Ethics we've also dealing with. So how does technology, its responsibility, and all that comes with it eventually impact society as a whole? Because eventually we're not just inventors, we're dealing with something that has consequences directly into the life of many other people. So this is very nice, and it very well, again, resonates with a lot of concepts we are exploring here in both Worms ethics and House of Ethics. And I would also like to ask you, well, you already touched upon this question a little bit, but how exactly, rather than how, what exactly resonated most with your beliefs, with your pre-ideas about AI? Because when I look at the work, at the world of AI, it's mostly still on the, so let's say, individual level, an individual AI system, individual so-called ethics, so stemming from an individual person to an individual AI system. Whereas here we talk about multi-elements, multi-agents, multi-interactions, open environments. So what was the trigger there that resonated with your thoughts?
Well, the trigger was, I think, you address among other things two or three things pretty well. It's applying systems thinking to the whole logic, and also when you look at the world, maybe not even at the recent world, maybe it has always been like that, but you see that a lot of people still apply causal thinking. A will lead to B in a certain proportion. And both in what we see happening in the world, but also what you see happening by consequence when you apply this systems thinking or systems theory to the technology side. You also have these positive, but also negative or unexpected effects of system logic, of systems thinking, of non-linear impacts, etc., on this technology layer. So that's, I think, one thing. The second thing, the reason, because I'm basically nowhere when it comes to ethics. I've maybe read a few books on it, but I'm totally not an ethicist. But this whole topic around ethics, and maybe if you put it in a more narrow context, aspects related to how do entities, companies, whatever, use our data, how will all those new capabilities in terms of AI be used with impact on our life? That makes me quite interested into the topic of ethics. And basically, but it has not yet cleared up maybe in my mind as concrete as I would want it, but I hope to be able to have a small discussion about that with you in the future. But what I'm now wondering is, you have that concept, and when I watch the swarm ethics episodes on maybe the YouTube channel, the question I hear a lot is, it's very nice concept, and now concretely, how can I apply it? I would not know how you can apply it in a lot of contexts, but what I might have a small idea about is, okay, how can you translate these concepts when you're talking about technical systems, like autonomous agents, backed or not backed by an LLM or other technical components, but autonomous agents that are interacting without central control. And there, of course, you have mentioned it, I think, yourself. You have the concepts of the Web3, where you can do decentralized things on an infrastructure and a transaction level. You can apply very nice concepts like this decentralized autonomous organization to govern a swarm. And you have things like decentralized or federated learning to integrate, to learn to make the consolidated, maybe the collective principles of the swarm, for instance. But if you start to think about it, that many questions pop up. Like, yes, you can implement something in a decentralized way, but then how do you apply the logic for an algorithm? Is it maybe the swarm agents, the identities, the people or devices in the swarm that have the best ethics reputation score that will have the most influence, or is the influence really equal for everyone, and how will that converge and work? I think that's a pretty nice question and solution also for the future.
Definitely. I think you told very synthetic, but I think you already stressed two very important points. So the first one is actionable ethics. So you immediately recognize the fact that instead of just being into some hyper-uranium idealistic world, it's now necessary to go from an ethical discourse into something that is applicable in practical. And this is also very well fostered by the interaction between ethicists and professionals. Because otherwise, if the two worlds stay detached, well, nothing really new might be triggered and be propelled. And secondly, the fact that, of course, starting with a descriptive argument then opens the questions on how does this description then fits into real practice, which is, well, of course, something that we as a group started to touch upon. It's an ongoing process, of course, that will take the very next future. But also something that you start addressing, quoting the op-ed also in your article. I'm now quoting two very nice phrases that I personally really like. So, like, in the world of Medics, we're not just observers, we're active participants, adding our ideas and experiences to this ongoing challenge. And the second one is really, here's the cool part, like, Medics is all about getting everyone on board. I personally like them a lot. They resonate with my beliefs too, but I'd like also you to maybe dig a little bit deeper onto them, give us a few comments on how you think they could really change social, but also technological life.
I'll do my best, yet it's not that difficult to try to capture some sentiment in one or two sentences. Might be bit more difficult to make it concrete. But one of the things I mean by that is it's like you also capture pretty well. You say basically we come from a top-down world where you have some ethical thinkers, and that's depending on the context and where you live, they have some influence, and it influences the worldview. Yeah, if I understood it correctly, the swarm ethics says, we use the wisdom of the crowd, and that's what I understood from it. And I think, totally not a specialist in that domain, but from experience, I have the impression that if you're part of the solution, then you feel more accountable for the results as well. And if you then try to make it concrete around, say, suppose we engage in an interaction and I request something from you, can be information or to do something, to conclude a transaction. And I think, because I have checked my ethical body of knowledge in my head, and I think my question to Daniel or the transaction I request, it's based on an ethical intention, and my intention is ethical. But it can be that you refuse a transaction. You can refuse a transaction for many reasons, but you can maybe refuse a transaction because it doesn't align with your ethical principles, your own. And if you then reviews the transaction and you provide me feedback. No, Tijl, not going to do that because it violates my worldview or ethical principles on that and that level. That allows me to make inference, to evaluate if I should update my own worldview, my own ethical principles. And if you start doing that, not only to you and not only to 5 other people, but in all the transactions, either real person transactions or synthetic transactions between entities, then you really bring everyone on board, because it allows everyone to make its own ethical principles more refined and applicable. And if you then try to converge that, and maybe it's totally misconceptualized, but that's also what I understood a little bit when you say that you have a bell curve, and in a swarm, okay, you will have outliers, and they maybe they leave the swarm or they start converging towards the mean. But that's a very powerful conceptualization of how we can learn from each other. And of course, we're allowed to deviate, but we can really apply the learning towards our own principles and worldview. I don't know if that is an answer to your question, but that's how I thought about it.
Yes. It's very nice. Thank you very much. It's very well conceptualized. And I think it also brings in the discussion of individual responsibility versus societal improvement. So give a little bit more onto the first in order to get better the second one, which is something potentially very powerful and also potentially very, very applicable too. And
I just maybe want to add to finish that topic. I think it's just a matter of believing that interactions like that can lead to better outcomes and engaging in it. And I think that's the biggest hurdle to take. But once you commit to that, I'm totally not a scientist, or I did not study that, but the concepts you defined based on concepts of others maybe as well, but it comes from somewhere. And in nature it works. So why wouldn't it work in a society?
Indeed. Considering also that society are still composed by natural entities, which is us.
Exactly.
Yes, there are also other scholars, much more experienced than myself, actually, who've been studying those systems for quite a while and also advocating for, well, if it works there and we deem ourselves more intelligent, then why shouldn't it work for us too? And for what we also construct, going back to the examples of technology that you just provided. So there are, of course, many, many things I would like to discuss with you, but maybe leave them for a second moment in order not to make this video too long. I would just like to ask you about your perspectives and future plans, and how do you think you might be more involved with this ethical thinking? You already told that you still think it's an added value also to your IT architect work. But then how do you foresee your near future and potentially also the future of the discipline overall?
It's the thing I pointed to maybe already a little bit at the beginning. It is, I think there are a lot of very nice things to explore, and things are not that easy as they look like from the start. So just explore and fail and learn from that, most likely. But I think if you look now at this whole tech evolution and people that are slowly becoming used to having a co-pilot to their daily life, having a some people call it a personal assistant with AI, or having systems that do things, that do things without telling them exactly what to do, but more the objective they should reach. Um, yeah, there obviously I see a lot of hurdles and dangers. I even personally would not even know if that is really the thing we would want, but what I do know is that it will happen. Yeah? And there, voila, if you look a bit at, a lot of people are thinking then on, okay, but we will have a lot of autonomous systems in many ways. Okay, but how can we make sure that they're aligned, but aligned to what? Because take the whole large language models. Yeah, there are a lot, maybe not enough, but a lot of discussions about aligning them to human interests. But you're always looking at aligning a very big system, a very big model, to human interest. But maybe if you go into the ethics of it, ethics are not fixed for everyone, because then we're still in the old logic of the old world. So alignment on a big autonomous model, I don't know if that's the good path. I think that alignment should also be possible, based on individual preferences, but basically to the consolidated ethics of the swarm, and how you then can translate that into making these autonomous systems, through autonomous agents, making them behave ethically, applying these swarm concepts. And when you start looking at some recent research or papers, and a lot comes from very skilled, I think, Chinese researchers, for instance, then you see concepts popping up of, we will make kind of an observer. It already violates, I think, the decentralized principles of swarm ethics, but I will make an observer, and that observer will engage with a lot of agents and ask them questions to see if they're ethically aligned to some centrally defined norm, centrally defined ethical norms, or even goals for society. But then you're back in the centralized thing, in the top-down approach, and who dictates what the alignment targets should be. And therefore, I think really in a full mesh, in a fully peer-to-peer world, embed such a small ethical module with my own ethical base in each autonomous agent, and making it learn within the swarm and learn from each other, and consolidate all of that. I think that's a much needed technological feature for the future. For the rest, in a more non-technical society way, I miss a lot of knowledge, and the only principle I can apply is to just say for myself, try in every engagement, in every conversation or interaction me has with anyone, just try to apply the things you value for yourself, and you will see where that leads to. But I'm not enough into that matter to make valuable contributions on that level, really, I think.
But you already gave very, very nice and cool and deep contributions already, also just by referring to your specific field. And then we already see how this path can be eventually viewed and amplified into other domains. So thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure. I will now stop the recording. Thank you again for joining us here in this friendly conversation, which nonetheless I hope can trigger new thoughts, new interactions, and future collaborations. And I will close by also reminding whoever might view this video again about your article. So Swarmedics redefining right and wrong for the 21st century on Medium, which also links the op-ed original article from our swarmedics.com website. So thanks again, Phil. And I will now stop the recording and wish you all a great evening, morning, afternoon.
Thanks a lot, Daniele, for having me, and looking forward, by the way, to your next op-ed.